This is the Gutsy Health Podcast with Janique and Tristan Roney.
Welcome back to the Gutsy Health Podcast.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back. I really wanted Karalynne to do that. I had to beg her to do it. So you guys, oh my gosh, we have Just Ingredients, Karalynne Call here on the episode today. And I want to first thank you so much. We know you are so busy and you got a million things going on. So the fact that you're here, I can't express enough gratitude.
I know, we should have made you a gift basket.
I have one.
Thank you for coming to our house. You do?
We made one. It's got no bow on it. Sorry, I'm not that organized.
I don't need a gift basket, but thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so excited. I want to start with a quick story really fast. I haven't actually told you this yet, but back in December, my friend Katie was like, you need to reach out to Just Ingredients and see if she wants to do a collab with you. And I'm like, there's no way.
Right.
And I actually started writing an email to you, and then it was like this long email and I just deleted it. I'm like, you know what? She's so overwhelmed with people. There's no way she's going to want to talk to me. And I am so glad that somehow the universe combined and like you actually knew I existed.
Well, it was meant to be, because that's so funny you say that story, because I would look at your stuff and be like, oh, she is so knowledgeable. Oh, it'd be so neat to meet her.
And that's how I feel about you.
When you posted that you had made my chicken pot pie soup, I think it was, I was like, wait, she follows me? Oh my gosh, I didn't even know. Didn't know she knew who I was.
And that's when I admitted that you're like my Beyonce in the world of Instagram.
So
this is so great. You made I think that happened on like January 1st. I'm like, my year 2020 has totally been made.
That's awesome.
And it was only January.
Right.
Who knows what we'll do at the other 11 months.
Exactly.
So you guys, we're going to have Karalynne kind of give a little bit of background. I reached out to everyone online and I asked, what do you want me to ask her? But we're actually going to take a completely different approach with our interview with her today. We're not going to talk about the stuff that she normally talks about as far as this is what you take out of your house. We're going to go back to the basics. We're going to talk about what makes Karalynne and what it took, the blood, the sweat, the tears that it took for her to become this expert. And I don't want to spoil anything for you guys because she just puts everything so eloquently. So Karalynne, go ahead, Tris.
I just wanted to say, if you haven't heard of Karalynne, that's okay too. There's a small little club of the boys out there. Hey guys, thank you. Whenever I run into you in public, it's like, oh, there's some guys and they all tell me I'm great and I have a place here. It's great. So if you haven't heard of Karalynne or whatever, keep listening. You're going to love her by the end of this. She has a massive Instagram following, but it didn't just appear overnight. No. There's a reason why people just follow every word she says. And it's because of the care and the work and just the insight that she puts into everything she does. Totally. And you're going to get a taste of that today.
Totally. So let's start from the beginning, Karalynne. What happened? What did you experience? How did your hero's journey begin?
So all of this started like 15 years ago, and I had 3 kids at the time, 3 little boys. And after the third one, he was about a year old, and I found myself with severe suicidal depression to the point that I even attempted suicide. And thankfully, by miracles, it didn't happen.
Amazing.
So once I hit that really rock bottom low, I was like, wow, I have got to figure this out. I need help. And because before then I thought, I can deal with this. People deal with depression, but hitting rock bottom, I knew I needed help. So I went to some doctors, and first of all, I learned because my baby wasn't a year, they weren't treating it as postpartum depression. I mean, because the baby wasn't under a year, because the baby was over a year, it wasn't considered postpartum.
Wow.
So every doctor would just say, well, we can give you this antidepressant. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against them. They can help people in situations. But my problem was I kept asking the doctors, well, will this heal me? Yeah. And they kept telling me, no, it just will help your symptoms. And I would say, well, okay, that's fine to help my symptoms, but I want to heal from this. I haven't always been like this. So something happened. Something had to have triggered this or something.
Yes.
And they would say, we don't really know what there is to do to heal. Just keep taking these antidepressants and maybe someday you can heal from it.
Well, and 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of support for postpartum depression as there is today. So you must have felt extremely isolated and people weren't having the discussions around postpartum depression like they are now. So that must have been enhanced by tenfold.
Well, and the problem, because it wasn't postpartum depression, like the OB didn't want to really deal with it. It was like, oh, you need to find someone else that works with depression.
Wow.
So, and depression wasn't talked about a lot back then. So I didn't even have friends to turn to that was like, hey, have you experienced this before? So I felt very isolated and very on my own, and I had to figure it out on my own.
Wow.
Did the antidepressants help with the symptoms like the doctors told you they would?
So this is what I tell people. It's like, it made me numb. It made me feel like I had a seatbelt in with my emotions. So it helped in the fact that I wasn't majorly depressed and wanted to kill myself. But at the same time, I couldn't feel joy. I couldn't find laughter. I couldn't find that happiness that I knew I used to have. So it was saving my life at the time, because I wasn't severely depressed, but I wasn't enjoying life to its fullest like I knew I used to.
Right.
And so I used to be in psychology, and I worked with a lot of people with major depression. And that's a very common story where people report, well, yeah, I don't necessarily want to kill myself anymore, but I also don't feel anything. Right. I'm a ghost.
Sort of like a blah.
Yeah. And okay, so we're taking medication now. Thankfully, you're not suicidal anymore, but you're numb. What happened next?
So it was a 2-year journey of me trying to find a doctor that could heal me.
So you on medications for 2 years at this point.
Right.
Okay. So numb for 2 years, like thankfully you're still alive, but
right.
So you went, how many doctors did you go through?
It was probably about, I should have counted, maybe 5 or 6 different ones.
That's a lot.
Because this was my philosophy. I kept thinking the body knows how to heal itself. Like when it has a cold, I get over my cold. When I scrape myself, it heals itself. Like I know my body can heal. I just didn't know how.
How did you know that?
Yeah.
How did
Where
you know
did you
that?
learn that?
Well, it's common sense sort of that like you have a scrape on your finger, it forms a scab and then the scab disappears. And so common sense, like I know the body can heal itself. Same thing with broken bones. You put a cast on it and it fuses together. So somehow I can heal myself from this depression.
Like if it created it, it can reverse it, right? Like I feel like there's so many people that don't trust that anymore. We think our bodies have become dumb. And the thing is, like, the body is the most intelligent thing on the planet, So you just intuitively knew. You're like, my body can fix this. And so you went from doctor to doctor to doctor.
Yeah, I knew it could fix itself, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I just was so naive. Like, I know there's got to be an answer out there somewhere, but I don't know how.
Right. Here's what's so cool about that, though. You didn't have to have like this full-blown confidence that, yes, I'm going to figure this out and I know exactly how to do it. Here's my steps. I'm going to get there. It was just this almost like a little tiny droplet of belief.
That's true.
Right. And that was all it took. That was what spread and created the big tree of healing or whatever it was that came later. Right.
Yes.
And that's important. If you're listening to this and you feel like things are hopeless for you, you don't need much to start. Right. You just need enough there to take the next step.
Yep. That's so true. Just a little belief.
So you eventually found this naturopath, right?
I did.
Okay. Yep. Your friend was like, I know this doctor, you need to go to them. You're having a conversation. What was that story?
So actually I was at a neighborhood party and I heard a neighbor talking to another neighbor saying, oh my goodness, my daughter has had the worst PMS and the worst periods. And I found this lady who was helping us find like the root cause of it rather than just medicate her. And so my ears perked up. I was like, root cause? Wait, I need to know a root cause.
There it was.
So I didn't even join the conversation. I just like scooted over to them, like pretending I wasn't listening.
That's so great.
And so I listened and the lady said like, oh, where is this doctor? And I listened really carefully.
You're taking notes.
And I remember the lady saying, but she's not like your normal MD. She will do a few different things that you're not used to. And at that point I was like, I don't care what they do. I just need help.
Yeah.
And so I made an appointment and went to her, and it was an 18-month journey that I worked with her with learning how to
amazing.
Yeah. Learning how to change my health journey, my food and how to heal. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you guys, I really want to emphasize this because Karalynne was on medication so she goes to this doctor. It wasn't a one and done appointment, right?
Right.
Like, it's not like she went to this appointment. This doctor gave her all of this information, all of these resources and said, go heal yourself. It was bit by bit, trickle by trickle. And we were talking about this before. As you were seeing this doctor, how often would you see this doctor? Like every month, every few months?
At first it was maybe every 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then every month.
Okay. And I really want to emphasize, you guys, at this time, Karalynne was on medication as she was healing her body. So can you explain to everyone the importance of, because my question to you earlier was, how long did it take for you to start feeling better? And your answer was, I don't know, because of the medication. So can you explain that to listeners right now who are on their own healing journeys, who are trying to figure this out, and they're they're discouraged because maybe it's only been a few months and they're like, I'm not feeling any different. Can you explain to them what that looked like for you as you went from rock bottom, knowing absolutely nothing, to, okay, now I've found someone who can send me in the right direction. I'm still on medication. What did it look like from there?
Okay. So, and I'll even take it a step back before that, just to let people know that when I went to doctor after doctor trying to find help, I listened to what they said and tried what they said. It was, let's change this medication, or let's add this medication, or let's change this dosage.
Yeah.
So I was trying all of that. It wasn't like I didn't give that a shot.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And you were doing that for 2 years.
Yeah. So then when I did find this doctor, I literally knew nothing. Like, I did not know how to heal. I was like, I will do whatever you say. Yeah. I'm so desperate. Just help me. And so, like I said, I worked with her for 12 months before they started weaning my medication. So I get asked all the time, like, how long did it take before you felt better? And I have to tell people, I don't really know, because I was so numb that maybe my gut, I'm sure my gut was healing. I know it was. My gut was healing. My inflammation markers were going down. That I do know. My hormones were getting balanced because we tested that. So those things were happening. But because I was still on that antidepressant and feeling numb, I didn't necessarily feel any different.
Yeah.
It wasn't until finally a year, we started weaning me off the medication for 6 months. And then by the end of 18 months, I knew I felt better because I was off the medication. And actually, I do remember when I got off the medication, one of my little boys said something and I laughed. Aww. And I almost cried. And I said to my husband, oh my gosh, that is the first time I have laughed in years.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I'm like emotional. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, wow. So 6 months of weaning. But
after a year
but after a year of
healing first.
Yes.
Right.
And I really want to emphasize to you guys that are listening, like, medication has a place. If Karalynne, or if anyone who is on this healing journey, if you didn't have those medications, how do we know if you would have been here or not still? You know, it has its place. So we never want to demonize the use of medications. But what we're emphasizing is, are you giving space for healing? Are you giving space to repair the body? Yes, let's Band-Aid for now. Let's keep you alive, but let's aggressively heal at the same time. And your aggressive healing process was 18 months. That's a long time.
Well, and I even say it's more than that, because it was 18 months of getting me to that point. But then I had to learn how to not relapse and want to get back on antidepressants again. And there were some hard days in those years afterwards where I would be like, oh, wow, what have I eaten in the last few days that have helped trigger this, episode? Or it wasn't all just cherry and bright and blue skies after that. I had to continue.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's not like you crossed the finish line and you're like, I'm here.
Right.
Because you were still healing. So can we talk about that a little bit? Because the reason why we're picking apart Karalynne's story is because her story is probably your story. You have probably experienced this, and you're trying to find healing and you don't know what it looks like, and you're having a hard time trusting the process. So the reason why we are picking this apart is because Karalynne is the perfect human being and the perfect example of going from nothing, no information. Can you tell listeners what you told me about your understanding of grains before this all started? Like, what you knew?
So actually grains and a few other things. My doctor would say things like, maybe we should look at adding some whole grains into your diet, not wheat, but other grains. And I was like, I wonder what a whole grain is. Maybe oatmeal. Like I literally knew nothing. I knew the basics that we were taught in elementary school, like the health pyramid thing. And that was it. Yeah. And another funny one is, she said to me, well, we could also incorporate some oils into your life, like some oils that could contribute to healing. And I was like, huh? Like what? And she was like, well, they're oils that come from flowers and plants. And I was like, what in the world is she talking about?
Who is this crazy person?
Yes, I was like, okay, I've gone a step too far. Like this might be too far for me. But she was talking about essential oils. But 15 years ago, I hadn't even heard of essential oils, let alone know that they come from plants and flowers. And so anyways, I literally knew nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And now you've created this massive empire where you've learned so much stuff and you're helping people come from nothing and learning about it. So the reason, going back to what I was saying earlier, the reason why we have Karalynne on today is because we want to show you that we've all been Karalynne at one stage. You have been Karalynne at one stage. You have come from nothing, of hopelessness and despair and desperation. But I want you guys to hear the work it took. This isn't an overnight approach. It's not even a 1 month approach. It's not a 6 month approach. This has taken years. And wouldn't you say that healing is a continuous thing? Like, even after 3 years, I mean, we've been on our cancer journey, Tristan's cancer journey for 3.5 years. We're still learning. We're still healing. We're still improving. What do you have to say about that?
Honestly, I think healing is a lifetime journey because with all the toxins around us and all the junk, like we do have to heal our bodies on a daily basis.
Totally.
So healing to me is a lifetime journey. Plus, I tell people, get on a health journey and just take one little step at a time. But our health journeys are all going to look different, but I'm still always going to be on a health journey. Like I can always improve by putting more fruits and vegetables in my diet, or I can improve by, like you guys said, adding liver to my to my meals. Like I haven't reached that step yet, but that's an awesome goal to have. But somebody else's goal may just be to get rid of the Lucky Charms for breakfast.
Totally. And that's okay. If getting rid of the Lucky Charms is all you can do this week, that's fine.
Exactly. I had Lucky Charms for 18 years of my life. That's what I grew up on for breakfast,
Yes. And so you guys listening there, we really want you to hear Karalynne, hear this. Like, it's okay to go low and slow. It's okay to take it one step at a time. Karalynne, there's a lot of moms out there or women out there, men out there too, if you're listening, that are really overwhelmed by the healing process. It's because you now have this Instagram page. I have this Instagram page and we're educating and it's a lot of information coming at once. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? And then their anxiety increases and then it's this big spiral effect. What wisdom do you have for these people?
So I get that because that was me. And so I think that's why it took so long with this doctor for 18 months is because I told her, if I get overwhelmed in this whole process, I will throw my hands up in the air and be done. Yes. I can't get overwhelmed. I've got to just take little steps, one thing at a time. And so her first thing was like, well, your inflammation is really high. So we're going to try to reduce your omega-6s. And I was like, my omega what? Okay, whatever those are. And then, so she was like, one place that is really apparent in back then we had partially hydrogenated oils. So get rid of the partially hydrogenated oils out of your house, get it out of your pantry, out of your fridge, try to go to the store and find replacements for those items. And you guys, I went into my pantry and I was like, I don't even know what that's in. Is it in these canned beans? Like I didn't know. And then finally I was like, oh, it's like in crackers and things to help things stay on the shelf for a long time. So take one little step at a time. You don't have to change your whole house at once or your whole eating diet or, at once, just one little thing at a time.
Can we talk about, so you'd go to these appointments. She would say, maybe it's hydrogenated oils. What did your learning around that become? How much was it her telling you what to do? And how much of it was you going home and researching?
So she would tell me one little thing and I would go home so confused, like what? So for instance, the whole grain thing, right? When she said, maybe add some whole grains into your diet. That's basically what I got. So then I went home and was like, I have no idea what that really means. So I found a class that was teaching a class on whole grains. And I went to the class and I went and I remember they gave like a sheet of all these grains and one was quinoa. And I was like, quinoa?
Quinoa.
What is this? I hadn't even ever heard of it.
Yeah.
You know, where now that's like a daily staple, not a daily, but it's a staple in our house. And so
Yeah.
I literally knew nothing, but the doctor would tell me one little thing. And then I had to take that as like my diving board to bounce off into a whole pool of information and had to figure it out for myself.
And that's so important because the doctor couldn't follow you home and hold you by the hand and make sure you were doing all these things. The doctor for you was just the kind of the check-in point and the guidepost to say, hey, let's look down this way. Let's look down this way. But 99% of the effort had to come from you.
Right.
And you had to have the right mental frame of mind to take that responsibility on yourself and not expect that whatever 20, 30-minute session you were doing with the doctor every week was going to get you there by itself.
She was the springboard for me.
Yeah.
And you know, but you're totally right about it took a lot of work. Like if you want to heal, it can't just be, oh, maybe I want to heal. It's got to be, really want to. I mean, I've almost committed suicide. Like that is the bottom of bottom. So I was to the point that I was like, I will do whatever it takes to heal. I have got to do this for my sake and my kids' sake and my husband's sake. So people that want to heal, they've got to know they've got to be committed. It can't just be like, maybe I'll do this on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
Yes.
I imagine there are a lot of people listening right now that hear, oh, she healed from depression, and they want notes, right? They're writing on what did she did. Looks like inflammation was on there. They looked at digestion, and people are trying to put together a protocol based on what worked for you.
Right.
But that doesn't work very well because we can get general principles that tend to apply to people, but every individual is so unique.
Right.
There are people with major depression that don't have a lot of inflammation.
Right.
Totally.
And so if they try to follow the same exact footsteps that you did, they're not going to get there.
Right.
And that's where, once again, that mental frame set comes in of it's not about checking off the right boxes.
Totally.
That's the old model. That's the medical model of we're going to try these different medications and see if we get there. With this, we have to start listening to ourselves.
Right. It's no longer like a one size fits all. We're all individual. We all have our own unique biochemistry and DNA. And I want to go back to you saying like, you're all in, right? Well, a lot of people will often say, this is too hard. You know, this is like a full-time job. And I'm like, well, disease is a full-time job too. You know,
that's true.
So where do you want to put your energy?
Right.
You know, and again, this is never to shame anyone. It's just giving you some pieces of information that you can really mull around in your mind and meditate on and be like, okay, I need to do this, you know? And again, you might not be ready now to be all in. Maybe you're still in the research phase. Maybe there's a little bit of overwhelm, but I do want to remind people like disease is a full-time job. Healing is also a full-time job. Where do we want to put our coins in which basket or eggs in which basket, right?
Well, yeah, because depression was 24/7. It was a full-time illness. It was not, oh, okay, I feel better now. Oh, you know.
Right. And it's also the money aspect too. It's like, well, eating whole foods is really expensive. Being sick is also really expensive, guys. Like just become familiar with the cancer family. I was reading an article that said when someone gets diagnosed with cancer, their entire life savings is depleted in the following 2 years.
It's like over 50% of people, right?
I think it was like 50 or 40% of people diagnosed, like all of their life savings are gone. Life savings in 2 years because of one disease. You know, so one thing I do want to tell people is yes, healing can be a little bit pricey, but so can being sick. You know, so can dying. There's a big price there too. One thing I also want to say is eating healthy isn't that expensive. Snacking healthy is.
I was just going to say
snacking healthy is really expensive.
I was going to say, I think our grocery bill actually dropped by me trying to eat healthier because before I was buying everything processed, everything. I mean, yeah.
Yes.
So to give that up and then cook from scratch and just buy fruits and vegetables and things.
It's so cheap.
It is a lot cheaper than buying everything processed, everything pre-packaged, everything individualized packages.
Totally.
And we are guilty of doing that sometimes where we're always looking for like, what's the perfect healthy snack food?
Right.
And you know, we were in California recently and we found these like Cheeto healthy things. They were made with coconut oil and it was like, oh, this is so awesome. And it's like $8 a bag.
Right.
Right. And it's still not a great snack compared to just some whole foods.
Right.
Or like a green smoothie or something, which
Right.
a full green smoothie is probably like for the whole family, like $5. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? Like cooking from scratch. Also like buying bone broth. Again, we're all at a different place. Like buying bone broth versus making bone broth. Like making bone broth is like so cheap. We're talking like a couple dollars versus like $5. But you guys get the
I
bone
buy
broth
the
in,
bone
right?
broth. So.
You know,
Which is
that's
totally okay if that's what
totally
you decide to
fine.
do. We all have to decide where our
Yes.
time is most
Like,
valuable
no shame,
spent.
Karalynne. Like,
No,
none at all.
I was just kidding.
And
I
most-
do buy it, but I was saying that because it's true. You have to decide
Yes.
where your time is.
Exactly.
Like someone told me I should make homemade ketchup. And I was
Oh,
like,
no.
oh no, that is
Yeah.
lost on my
No.
list.
That's how I feel about mayonnaise.
Yeah.
There's some really great homemade mayonnaise recipes,
Nope.
but you know what? I can also get a pretty good one at the store, and I'm willing to
Right.
pay the price on
Making
that.
kombucha,
Right.
fermented sauerkraut. I'm like, I just don't have the time. I kill cactuses, or the cacti. I don't know, but
Doesn't matter, they're dead.
But exactly. So I kind of want to transition and say that a lot of times people are too scared. Like they say, okay, I know I need to heal my body. I know I need to become an expert in my health, in my family's health, in my children's health, but they're too scared to explore, and they're too scared to, and I use the word experiment a lot because we have to do trial and error all the time. And what I notice is that people are terrified of that. Why do you think that is? Why are we too scared to like go with our gut and just like do it?
Oh, I think there's lots of things. I think that we're afraid to mess up. Mm-hmm. We're afraid not to listen to the doctors and actually do something on our own.
Yeah.
We're afraid that we can't do it, don't have confidence in ourselves. So really, and I actually was afraid at first because I was like, I know nothing. I literally didn't. I grew up, like I said, eating Lucky Charms and trying to eat everything low fat, I did not know anything. So my philosophy was I'm going to learn one thing at a time and get good at that and then move on.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to be an expert in it.
No.
Do one little bit of research and use that in your life. And when you're good at that, research a little bit more. When you're good at that, move on to the next thing. It's not an overnight fix on any illness, right? We've done things for years that have probably contributed to it. So we need to, go month by month healing.
I want to point out that one of the scary things that I've experienced, and I've seen a lot of other people experience, is going away from what we think is the sure thing with the doctors, because we are trained as a society to believe that the doctors have all the answers, and the stats do show otherwise, and the doctors know that the success rates are not nearly as high as we want to believe they are, unless you get really specific and say, was this symptom addressed by this medication? Yes, it was. We're really good at that, but we're not good at addressing, is this person experiencing a higher quality of life? Are they healthier? No, they're terrible at that, but we don't know that. So when we start going away from what the doctors say, we start taking the power into our own hands. You have that terrifying experience of, if things go wrong now, it's my fault.
Exactly.
And there are going to be people that with glee tell me what a terrible decision I made and how I did this to myself.
Well, yeah. But we're also brought up thinking the doctors know it all.
Right.
So for 2 years, I went to doctors trying to find answers. And when they couldn't give me the answers, that's when it was like, oh, maybe I should start looking other places.
And that's why it usually takes some kind of really serious illness for people to finally break free of that spell.
Totally.
And with saying that, though, I have to give this little side note. My dad was a surgeon. He's passed away, but he was
interesting.
a surgeon. And I have sisters that are RNs.
Oh, wow.
And so I always have to tell people, I am actually really grateful for the medical world. There is definitely a place in this world for the medical place, or
So
for the
much.
doctors, but there also is a place in this world for the nutrition and
I'm still alive today because of a surgeon.
Right.
One of the
know.
greatest doctors I've ever met was a surgeon. And I
amazing.
love surgeons in particular because they are so valuable. And yeah, we can't fix what they fix with nutrition most of the time.
right.
so I always say there's a place in this world for both, for sure.
Well, and that medication kept you alive.
Exactly.
As you were figuring out the healing part. So you had a space for the medication and the mainstream, and then a space for the nutrition, which, again, respect to both worlds, right? But incorporate the alternative world as well. Like be your own health advocate and start healing and creating a game plan. And, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of trial and error, but it can happen because we're seeing this happen thanks to social media. We're seeing people healing themselves more and more each day. I don't know how many messages you get, but How many do you think a day do you get messages from people saying, I'm feeling so much better. I'm now pregnant. I'm now healing myself. My eczema is gone. How often, because I know I get at least like 10 to 20, maybe 30 a day where people like, this has helped me so much. And my followership isn't near as close to yours. So what would you say?
You know what? Probably pretty similar, around that 20 to 30 a day. There might be more, but I have so many unanswered DMs. They might be in those. Yeah. But it's amazing. Yeah. I get a lot of, we took our children off of food coloring and their tantrums and their behavioral issues have decreased. And so many, I told someone the other day, maybe I'm in this world just to get, or doing this on Instagram just to get people pregnant. Just kidding.
I love it. But you are.
Because I get so many people saying, we've been through IVF 4 times or 3 times and it didn't work, or, and we finally cleaned up our food and things in our home and products we were using and we're now pregnant and they're so excited. And so that is actually a really rewarding part of this job, is
seeing that, being a little part of that.
By the way, that's proof that this kind of thing works.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You'll have people throw doubt on it all day long and tell you that's a load of bull. There's no evidence that does anything. But you too are seeing that in your DMs every single day, that people are making these fairly straightforward lifestyle changes. They're not using the medications that they've been told are the only answer, and they're getting there.
Yeah.
They're making these huge health jumps, and it's awesome to see that.
Totally.
It is awesome.
So that's why one of my favorite hashtags that I use on Instagram is #HealingHappens, because trying to remind people of that every day when they are discouraged, when they're taking, would you say your healing journey was 3 steps forward, 2 steps back?
Oh, for sure.
Like,
for sure.
Like it's a constant like trial and error, trying something out, like it's not working. But that's why I say healing happens. Also, you guys, we put our, all our eggs in one basket when it comes to the medical field, but I kind of just want to put something into context with everyone of, the number one leading cause of death in America is heart disease, followed by cancer. And then it's iatrogenic causes. And what that word means is causes from hospitals, doctors, surgeries, medications. So we are trusting with our, like when we go to our doctor, a lot of people have that 100% confidence in the 3rd leading cause of death in America. Like, isn't that weird? That we would rather trust them than we would trust our own gut and our own instincts and our own research, right? Like,
well, it's weird that we think it has to be either or.
Right. Exactly.
That's the biggest issue, is to say either I go with my gut or I do everything this doctor tells me. And that's not how it was supposed to be. When this whole doctor thing became an idea, I imagine it was more, this is a trusted advisor. But in the end, you make your decisions for yourself. Yeah. You are deciding to let the doctor make all your decisions. So ultimately it's still your decision.
Totally.
Exactly. I have an analogy that I tell my readers all the time, or followers all the time. Can I tell you guys?
Yes, please.
So I always tell them, if your house were on fire, you would not just take one hose on that fire. You would have multiple hoses coming at multiple angles on that fire to try to save your house. Well, cancer, depression, autoimmune issues, infertility, all of that is like being on fire. Yes. So instead of just putting one hose on it, say you go with the doctor, well, let's put multiple hoses on it, because it could be nutrition that you need. Maybe it's therapy that you need, or counseling, or the Hocket machine. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, there's so many hoses we could put on this illness. And the problem is there's not just one hose for each disease. If there was, then we wouldn't have the cancer problem we have today. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So use your doctor as one of those hoses, but include lots of other hoses in your healing.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect. I love that.
I got a question a few days ago about healing endometriosis. And it was basically, what do you recommend for endometriosis? It took me 3 days to formulate the answer, because there's not, this is what you do.
Exactly.
There's, let's take a look at all the different systems in your body and let's see which ones are not functioning properly. And then we can address what's going wrong. And basically the answer to all health issues is, how do we get all of your systems back into balance?
Right.
Right. Exactly. And that does require all kinds of different hoses. And that means that we can't just rely on a single source of answers for this sort of thing.
So sometimes I get followers mad at me saying, how dare you just say that depression is cured by food. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me, that was one of the main hoses that helped me heal from depression.
Totally. Why do you think we are having such a pushback? Because there's a lot of people that are getting this. That's why your Instagram account is so big and it's growing rapidly. But why do you think there is this really, and it's almost like a violent pushback. It's people are very angry and emotionally charged and they want to pull you down. It's not like, hey, I just wanted to talk about maybe you can use a trigger warning. It's more like you are dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. Why are we getting such a violent response, do you think?
I have been pondering this for a while because food, I've decided, is as debated as religion and politics. It's ridiculous. And if you go back to the basics, food, the right foods are nourishing and healing. And so can we not all agree upon that? But we can't. Yeah. And I think what it comes down to is people do want to be healed. There's a lot of illnesses out there, but me saying, oh, it's a long journey of healing with nutrition, they don't want to hear that. They want a pill they can pop. And they want their doctor to prescribe that pill. And I get it because when I first went to my doctor, I was like, well, is there any pill you can give me? And she first started off with giving me ashwagandha in a pill form.
Capsule.
Oh my gosh.
And probiotics. And she was like, yes, here are some pills you can take that will start, but I had that mindset of, no, nothing's going to help but some pills. So give me some pills.
Yes.
And so we just have that ingrained in our society because some pills have done amazing things for people.
Yeah.
But I think they just get angry that, oh, this is going to take so much work and maybe they haven't felt healing in their life and they've had some illness for so long that the thought of healing from food or therapy or counseling,
it's overwhelming.
Or it's not possible because they haven't experienced that yet.
Right. This is just my opinions. This isn't any kind of from a doctor or whatever, but I feel like when you are in pain for so long, you are almost stuck in a victim mentality, right? And healing and growth and expansion can't happen from a victim mentality. And so luckily you have hundreds of thousands of followers who aren't stuck. They're like, I want to expand. I want to grow. I want to heal. But there is that would you say it's a small realm of people that are doing that pushback, or would you say it's pretty significant?
Oh, it's tiny.
It is. That's so beautiful to hear. Yay. We're
honestly,
evolving.
I honestly would say out of my 100,000 people, it's like 100 or less.
Oh, that's so great.
They just love to be very loud.
Tiny but vocal minority.
Right.
Tiny but vocal. Yeah. And you know what? I actually, it doesn't bother me to tell you the truth. I honestly feel sad that they can't be open-minded to other things out there, but I also get it. I wasn't very open-minded until I hit rock bottom and needed to be open-minded.
Yeah.
So I get where that closed-mindedness is coming from.
Right. They're just doing the best they can with what they have.
And that's what, exactly.
Yeah. And it might take them a few years to get to that's what Karalynne was talking about. We're all on different paths and different stages of our healing process, but, just making listeners aware that there is that small group of people that are going to be the naysayers. Don't listen to them. I'm always where thoughts go, energy flows. Find people that have the same vibrational frequency as you, that are saying the same things you're saying, and then gravitate towards them, right? Gravitate towards people that believe healing happens and will support you along the way, because it will happen.
But also be prepared for the fact that it's going to be some of the people closest to you
True.
who are the most vocal opponents to what you're trying to accomplish.
Very true.
Because
right?
we are more comfortable challenging the ideas of people that we are close to, right? So it's our family members, it's our closest friends that say, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Why are you doing this? This is never going to work.
Yeah.
Well, and thankfully, though, I feel like our society, the pendulum has finally swung where people are being more open to this. 15 years ago, when I was going through this, I tried to tell a few people what I was doing to try to heal depression, and the shock of the people was so unbelievable that I thought, I'll just not share this right now. We're not ready.
Isn't it amazing, this day and age? Okay, now here's my little bit of my fangirl going on. Do you recognize that you're a massive part of this movement?
No,
do you
not
see
at all.
that?
No,
you are.
I just look at myself as a stay-at-home mom who had a little hobby to try to help people,
but that's the best part. that is what we love more than anything, is that you aren't some authority who people listen to simply because of where you went to school.
Because they have a PhD.
The degree you have, right? You are a normal person like us with no formal training that just wanted to feel better. Right. And you turned that into a passion, and you were willing to share that with other people. And I would love to hear how that story went when you decided, like, okay, I'm going to start talking about this publicly. And people caught on. They heard it and it resonated with them, and they said, I want more of this.
Yeah.
And it created a movement.
Well, I'll tell you really quick. A few years ago, I had so many family members and so many friends and just people I knew dealing with autoimmune and depression and weird things like joint pain that they couldn't get rid of, and they were on narcotics for it, and just all these random things, like everyone around me. And every day I was like, oh, if I could just go cook for them for a month, I know they could feel so much better. Yeah. But you can't say that to someone, or, so I finally was like, how could I share some of this knowledge? And then I was like, oh, Instagram, I'll just start small and little and just share little things every day of things that I've learned over the years.
And this was what year?
It was about 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
So not that long ago.
No.
And it actually was on a different Instagram. I only switched to Just Ingredients 1.5 years ago.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. And so you started with your 250 closest friends and family as your only followers. And you just kind of talked about what you were doing for yourself.
Right. And doing for my house. I think I grew a lot in the mom area because they wanted to know how all this healing wellness applied to kids.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what does she make for breakfast? What does she do for dinner? How does this really work on a daily basis?
And that is so huge, because it seems like childhood illnesses are just running rampant these days. Every kid has multiple allergies
or
and
skin conditions,
skin issues. Yeah.
It's rampant. And I mean, like childhood cancers. I mean, we could go on and on and on. So I just want to put it out there. Like, you are making such a like, you're part of this movement. You're part of this like awakening in people, because they had no idea that there was this demon that we're all dealing with, these chemicals, these things that everyone knows right now is we're all sick. And we don't know what to do, and we're all drowning. And then they come across you, or a friend's like, hey, you need to follow Just Ingredients. And then you convey the information so well that it's understandable and it's simple and it's not overwhelming.
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you.
So no, one last thing I want to talk about is the pushback you're getting from farmers, because we spoke about this when you're in the clinic, when she was in the clinic, because I told her, I said, I get a lot of doctors and nurses that just really like hate me. And they are like, the information I'm sharing is dangerous, yada, yada, yada. And then you mentioned, you're like, yeah, I get the same pushback from farmers. What's the story behind that?
Well, okay. And I actually get why they don't
like you.
So whenever I talk about glyphosate, they really don't like me. And I feel bad for them, because this is what happened. A lot of them converted their farmlands to grow GMO crops, right? And to be able to be sprayed with the glyphosate. And the government subsidizes for a lot of those GMO crops for them. And they thought it was a great thing they were doing and a great way to provide income for their family and support themselves. And then now we've got all this backlash of, oh, glyphosate isn't good for us. And but for them to convert their lands over to organic is a 3-year process. So that's like asking you to go without 3 years of your income.
Because they can't really sell anything in the meantime, right?
Right. To convert completely over to organic. And so that's a hard decision. Do we go 3 years basically without income while we switch over to organic?
Right.
And the government doesn't subsidize for the organic crops. And so of course they want to hear that glyphosate is not an issue. And glyphosate is a conflict out there, and so of course they're going to take the positive side of it. And so when I show the negative sides of it, of course they don't like me.
Totally.
So I feel for them.
There's something that I also heard as well, that they were actually promised by like Monsanto and stuff that spraying and doing it this way, that their crops would yield more. Right. And they're finding that it's not.
Right.
They're finding that, it's the opposite. And it's like, well, of course it is, because you're destroying the soil. The growth comes from the soil. Right? You got to have nutrient dense soils. And so, no, it's not in the sprays. It's not, it's not with these chemicals. It's going back to nature again, and you've destroyed nature now. And so I can totally see why they wouldn't be super thrilled with them. And now people are catching on like wildfire, right? Like that's why, that's why your following is so massive and it's growing at like such an incredible rate, because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And now you're giving them really simple solutions, and these simple solutions are making such revolutionary changes in their lives. So,
but they're coming at the cost
of these people's
the GMO
businesses.
farmers, for example, that now suddenly there's demand dropping for their products. And just like religion and politics and all these other groups, it feels personal, right?
Totally.
It kind of hurts your own ego to hear that the team you're on may not be the good guys.
Right.
And so of course you're going to defend that. Of course you're going to want to lash out because it feels like you're personally being villainized for what you thought was making good decisions. Right.
Totally.
And that's when society needs to come together and work together as a whole.
Together as a whole.
That's a whole nother issue.
Totally.
Yes, it is.
I feel like I'm seeing a lot more of that though. Like online used to be, and maybe it's just because I'm not on Facebook anymore, but like I felt like there was such a toxicity online, but I'm seeing such healing realms now online of people banding together, people educating themselves. Tristan shaking his head now.
I'm still on Facebook, and I can tell you the
Facebook.
toxicity is still very much there.
Still
I'm in an ethical omnivores farming alliance group, right? And it's all about how we can raise animal foods in an ethical way. And it's ugly out there because the vegans will come in and they'll talk about how meat is murder, and that's the end of the story. And then the farmers on their side, they're not very graceful about hearing that feedback. And so they started going off about how vegans are abusing their children by not feeding them meat. And it's just sad and it's ugly. And
it is sad.
No one hears each other. So we're not really making any progress. We're just entrenching ourselves even deeper into the team we chose to be on and making ourselves sad. That's what it comes down to.
How did we get there? Like, why do you guys think food is so inflammatory? Like, why does it provoke this massive reaction in people, do you think?
I don't know, but I wish it would just go back to the basics.
Yeah.
Like we know fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds provide nourishing, healing, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all of that for our bodies. So let's all just go back to the basics and agree that we know that those whole foods are the best things for our bodies.
Totally. And that not everybody's body will, like, some people won't be able to do veganism and some people will thrive with veganism, right? Or vice versa. Like what works for my body might not work for your body. But if you're still getting that abundant fruits and veggie servings, you're probably going to be fine, but it's all about maxing out on those core, those veggies, those fruits. What's your opinion on that? Do you think? Why do you think we're so polarized?
Well, emotions and food are so tightly integrated, right? And that's because food is our survival.
It's a drug.
Right. I mean, Cecilia likes to say that there are three things we need to survive: air, food, and water.
Yeah.
And if we are deprived of any one of those, then it causes emotional distress like crazy. So our emotions are just intertwined with our food.
Yeah.
Basically from birth,
Totally.
right? What do the kids associate with feeling better when they're sad?
Candy?
Booby.
Oh yeah. My kids.
Our kids in particular, right? And so that milk that they got from the very beginning it's their source of reassurance. It's their source of soothing comfort.
True.
And that doesn't go away when we get older. It just transforms into other things. Plus, when we get modern manufacturing practices into it, there's all kinds of sugars and addictive chemicals that get added into the mix. So we're literally creating an addictive relationship with these foods that help us to really soothe ourselves when things are hard.
We're really addicted society.
We don't call for booby anymore, but we certainly do run to the store for chocolate and ice cream. And Cheetos. And so
hey, a little dark chocolate every once in a while.
That's totally fine.
No,
totally.
I love chocolate.
Polyphenols. I love it. Yep.
And so I think that's where it comes from, that it's just, we have such a hard time detaching the emotion from the food that we can't detach the emotion from any of the conversation around food either.
Which is why healing in this realm is so hard too, because it's so emotional. It's not just chemical, right? It's the emotional aspect as well.
It's emotional. And because it's emotional, we close ourselves off to possibilities that could heal us because they don't fit with our belief system about
Right,
foods.
right.
Right. It's the meat eater that refuses to go vegan for any amount of time because that sounds stupid. Or it's the vegan who refuses to eat meat because their body is desperate for B12 vitamins and they just won't do that. Right. So they limit themselves unnecessarily and they stay sick longer than they need to.
Totally. All right. So I'm gonna reel this back in again. Karalynne, what would you have told yourself 15 years ago? What's the advice that you have to women, men that are starting where you started? Like, what do you wish you knew back then?
I wish I knew that there was hope. Like I went into this just hoping there was hope.
Yeah.
But there is hope and healing. There really is. I remember in my dark days thinking to myself, everybody tells me there's a light at the end of the tunnel and I cannot see the light.
Yeah.
Like it was dark. So I wish I just had told myself, hang on.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight fix. There is healing. Just keep going one step at a time.
Yeah.
And don't worry if you fall back a few steps, just keep going.
Yeah. I love that.
That's really helpful for me to even hear right now, because we have these setbacks, and for us, for Janique and for myself, it's other people's stories that can be the setbacks where we feel like we're doing really good, and then someone we care about, things go wrong for them, right. and it helps me so much to remember that there's a spectrum with these things, that in some cases we can't really control everything, and those things happen, but for ourselves, we never know where we land on that spectrum. So the best thing that we can possibly do is just maintain a glimmer of, hey, there's possibility, that there's hope.
It's not always forward, that sometimes there are setbacks, but it's okay, because as long as you're always aiming for the forward, you'll eventually get momentum and keep healing. What else would you tell people, or what else would you have told yourself?
I would tell people not to get overwhelmed. I think that's the big thing right now, is people are just so overwhelmed by all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that I told myself back then, okay, I will do one thing at a time. And I really did. I was like, for grain, like for instance, with the grains, I'll become a master at grains and then move on to the next thing. Yeah. And so I feel like we're in a society of now. Like we have to do it now. No, take care of one thing at a time and then move on.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
follow-up question to that may be hard to answer, but if there was just, we'll say 3 things that you could recommend a person start with, if they're at the beginning of their journey and they're feeling totally overwhelmed, what are the 3 things they could do?
So I actually put one of them in my post today. My thing was,
I haven't seen it yet.
Just go back to the basics. I said, if all this is overwhelming and you're confused and you don't know what to do, we all know the fruits, the vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes are good for us. So start with trying to just add more of that into your diet.
Totally.
And I always thought like, well, I don't know how to make these cool vegan meals. Like I thought I had to come up with all these creative things. So I put in the post, take your meals that sloppy joe, spaghetti, chicken pasta, and throw more veggies in it. That's all you need to do. Like start there. So I always say, just add more veggies or fruits, whatever, to your diet. And then number 2, I would tell people, just start avoiding the man-made chemicals. Just look for the whole food ingredients rather than the man-made ones.
Stay away from the middle aisles in the grocery store. Right?
Shop on the outer aisle.
Exactly. And when I was first going through my healing, I was like, there's like 10% of this grocery store I can shop in.
Yes.
And I was like, that was confusing to me. I was like, why do we make all these foods then if none of them are good for us? But that's a whole nother story. So I get it, listeners, if you are confused. But so stay away from the man-made chemicals. And those are my top 2. And then 3, I say get moving. Like our bodies were not meant to sit on the couch or sit at a desk all day.
Yes.
Because exercise has played a huge role in my healing, huge role. And that's something I try to do every day just because I know how much better I feel after exercising.
I love all of those things. Karalynne, this has been such a treat to hear and to get really deep. I hope it wasn't like too
I
personal.
Loved it. No, I always I'll share whatever, whenever. So no, I'm so grateful you had me.
I had a friend, Shannon, online, who brought to me this idea of expanders. And an expander is someone that you know of and you've seen their journey and you see them doing something you want to do and you don't quite believe that you can do it, but then you see them do it and you're like, wait, if they can do it, I can do it too. And so my purpose to reveal your story today was to be everyone's expander, because they say, wait a second, Karalynne was where I am right now. If she can do it, I can do it. And that's what I love about you is you are the stay-at-home mom. You aren't this hotshot PhD, like you went to medical school. You can do all the, like, it's so simple. It's so basic. We all can do this, and we are all entitled to this knowledge, to this information. You can start from nothing and be like Karalynne, be where she's at right now. And so thank you for coming on today and being the expander everyone needs. I think that's why people are so drawn to you. And that's why when you are online, how you so gracefully put information out there, it's so approachable and it's so kind and friendly. And you are, you know that saying, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's you. You're doing that.
You're so nice.
You wish to see that change and you are putting the information out there and it's happening. It's organically happening. And so again, thank you. Why are you smiling at me like that? Because I'm just gushing.
You like
I'm
her.
Gushing
it's
all
wonderful.
over.
I love to
Tristan's
see
looking at me like I'm all weird and
No,
cheesy.
you're not weird.
So thank you for being everyone's expanders.
You're welcome. I love that idea of expander.
Isn't
I'm
that
going to
cool?
have to like ponder that thought.
It's like, was it Roger Bannister, the first man to break a 5-minute mile?
Yeah.
No one had done it until like the 60s, and then he did
And
it,
then
and all of a
everyone was
sudden,
doing it.
all of a sudden, it was like no big deal at all.
Yeah.
But someone had to be the first one to
Totally.
change our perspective on it all.
Totally. You know, and it's the same like Tristan's cancer. You know, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
You know, and we had to find our expanders. Like if they did it, we can do it. Right? And then I have a lot of people that follow me that have Graves' disease and, you know, they're trying to figure it out too. Well, if Janique could do it, I can do it. You know, so you guys find your expanders. Karalynne is such a good expander for all of us. Like really find those people that are going to emulate your healing, that are going to remind you daily, because I sometimes feel like we get bombarded with negative messages all the time. Get rid of those messages, find the expanders and constantly expand every single day. Healing happens. You're entitled to it. So follow it, get it, like own it, work for it. It takes a lot of work, but it's so worth it, right?
It is. Oh my gosh. I love that idea. Yes.
So-
and honestly, if I can do it, anyone can do it because I literally knew nothing, you guys.
Yeah.
I started from scratch. I mean,
And I love that. And that's
and it is totally doable for people.
awesome. Anything else you want to close this episode with?
Well, first off, how do people find you in case they don't already follow
Right.
you? What's the best way for them to learn from the great Karalynne? So
I have an Instagram account called Just Ingredients, and so they can follow me there. I also have a website called justingredients.us.
She has the best products, you guys. They're so clean. Can you tell us about all of your products, by the way? You have the serum, the deodorants, you now have the scrubs. Tell us everything.
So I have deodorant and serums and face scrubs and chapsticks and some more products coming. I started all this because I figured out for my own depression that my beauty products were a big trigger.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. They've got parabens and phthalates and things that were messing with my hormones. And so I was like, your skin is your largest organ. I want to feed it food, just food. And so my products are like jojoba oil and frankincense and sweet almond oil and just ingredients that are so nourishing to the skin and to the body rather than any part of any harm or anything.
Chemicals,
and so,
synthetics, that kind of stuff.
yeah. So
anyone out there who's listening, by the way, Karalynne is the real deal. She's not just a persona. She's not just a mask that she wears on social media. Our interactions with her off camera, so to speak, are just as wonderful as watching her stories. And it's the same thing for her products. She's not just talking a big game about, healthy, organic. She's using really healthy, natural, basic ingredients in her products. The name Just Ingredients is very fitting for what she's doing.
Right. Now, people have a hard time buying your products because they sell so fast. So if you want it, right? Or are they available? Is there anything in stock right now?
Not the face scrubs. I come out with a new product and manufacturing can't keep up on the demand, which is a good thing, but it also frustrates my followers, but we're trying to get there. So
they love you enough that they'll hang in and wait. It's worth waiting for.
Well, and the other thing is a lot of them are like hand made. I mean, my face scrubs, you got to hand mix, and they take a lot of love and attention, these products, you know.
It is difficult to mass produce something that is real.
Right.
So true. But you can find her products on, what's your website?
Justingredients.us.
Justingredients.us. And her Instagram is just.ingredients.
Right.
Right. Any other platforms that you are on that people should know about?
TikTok.
No TikTok.
No?
My kids keep trying to get me to do that, and I don't know. I can't do those dances.
I couldn't.
I tried it for 3 minutes and no, thank you.
My goal for 2020 is a YouTube channel. So that
There you go. That's a great idea. Yeah.
I love
so
it.
keep
Cool.
your eyes out for Just Ingredients TV.
That's right.
Coming in
Serious?
2020.
Oh, that's going to be so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
thanks.
much.
This
was
really
awesome.
fun. And until next time, guys, keep healing. Healing happens. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.